there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now I am always on the lookout for an alternative to the Neenah Solar White cardstock that I use. I have spent a lot of time and money researching different options but never found a great option. So I am giving this Recollections brand a go. This is 110 pound cardstock and this has become available at Spotlight stores here in New Zealand. I know this is readily available for the US and things like that, so I am giving this a bit of a try today. I am also going to be using this Cake Maker stencil. This one is from Simon Hurley, but today it is about kind of using your stencils to make them more dimensional and getting the most out of them rather than just making them quite so flat. So this does come with that one little mask here. But you can also see that it comes with lots of different options for decorating your cakes. So I am just going to simply start off with some Tropical Tango and Minty Fresh. All I'm really looking for here is a light and a dark of the same coloured ink. You could definitely get away with just using one ink pad and blending it really lightly on for the base of the cake and then heavily inking it for the top layer of the cake. But seeing as I had some different options here, I am going to layer these up and I am just going to kind of do it randomly. I made far more cakes today than I actually need. So for the second one, this is the Remember Me and the Clear Skies. I happen to be using the Simon Hurley inks today, but you can use any inks at all. I was kind of testing them out on this Recollections paper and seeing how I liked it as well. It was okay for blending, however, I wouldn't say that using finger daubers is a good judge of how to blend things. If I wanted to do a fair test, I would go ahead and use some brushes or some domed foam blending tools, and that would give me a much fairer comparison with how I use the Neenah Solar White paper. I did find that this paper worked really well today. I do really like the quality of it, and so far I like it for die cutting, I like it for stamping on, and I haven't really given it a fair test for, as I said, blending inks and things, but it is heavy enough that I'm able to use it for a card base. It's not quite as heavy, I think, as the other one that I use at the moment, but it is a good alternative considering I can purchase it locally and easy to source. As I said in the beginning, I have tried many different papers out from many different companies and things. Some of them, such as the Accent Opaque and things, I am just not able to source them here in New Zealand. It's not feasible to be able to get them for a reasonable amount of money shipped over here. So I am limited by that a little bit, but it's always fun to try new options and try out new things. I'm always open to suggestions, especially if I'm able to get them here in New Zealand. So as I said, with these cakes, I was really having a good time, and I must admit that this stencil, given that it is just one stencil, it is pretty versatile. Even whilst I was creating this one idea that I had in my head, I had a whole lot more spinning, so you might see the stencil coming up a bit, but have a look at the stencils in your stash and see if there's a way that you can cut out pieces of them or raise some of them up to be a little bit higher, different heights and things, create some dimension. Even though that may not be how they were designed to be, it's fun to try it out and kind of cut them up and see what else you can create. So I am just going to do the last couple here, and then I actually ended up doing a few more off camera because I felt like I didn't have some kind of good pinks and good purples. I am just trying to get a really wide range of colors. I didn't know specifically at the time what I was kind of going to reach for. But what I am going to do here, I do need a sentiment for the front of my card, and I was looking at all of these colours here and thought the yellow one, the yellow cake on the left, was going to work best and the sentiment would show up the brightest. So I am going to use a stamping tool only because I was nervous here after I didn't think that there were any other options for cakes that I wanted to put the sentiment on, so I wanted to make sure that I got it right the first time. I am using the words happy birthday because these are birthday cakes for this particular celebration, but they would work well for any celebration at all. I'm going to pop them on, and these stamps are from the All the Little Things stamp set. but I am almost 100% sure that you guys will have a fantastic little stamp in your stash that would do exactly the same thing. I will link everything down in the description box below. Sometimes you have to press that little grey arrow and that kind of expands the description box so that you can see all of the supplies listed. But as I said, I'm sure you've got a gorgeous little happy birthday stamp down there, and then have a look through your stencils and see what you can create and cut up and kind of give some dimension and life to. So I'm just stamping this out using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and then I'm going to leave that cake for a minute because I want that ink to dry nicely. It is a pigment ink, so it takes a little bit longer. Then I'm going to cut these cakes apart separately, and this was a fun card to make. I really enjoyed this card, and it's fun to do something a little bit different than I have done before. And as I said, I had ideas kind of brimming in my head how I wanted to use this one, so you may see some more coming up soon as well, although I have quite a wee list now of things that I want to try, so I'm working my way down that. And I'm just cutting up several of these cakes. As I said, I didn't kind of have a colour palette in mind that I wanted to stick to, so I just did a wide range, and I was trying to make sure that I used a whole different variety of the patterns that are on the cake. Now I have left the white bit, the little white gap that is in between the cake layers. I thought that was important to leave on there when I was fussy cutting out, so I only kind of fussy cut the top of the cake. And then I did 3 sides of the lower level of the cake. Now here is the cake stand. So here is my card front, which I have cut down to be 4 to 5¼ inches. I have some Weathered Wood Distress Oxide ink, which is just a kind of warm greyish colour, and that is what I'm going to do my cake stand in. Now I'm going to have the kind of main cake down here to the right, but you could definitely centre it up in the middle if you wanted to. I'm getting placement right, and then I am going to ink blend some of this ink on here. I dabbed a little bit off to the side. I have re-inked some of my ink pads recently, and they are very, very juicy, so I often have a piece of scrap paper out to the side, or you'll see me dab it on the stencil kind of above the image, and then come back and grab that ink later, because I don't want there to be a big splotch as soon as I kind of come in with my finger dauber. So I am going to put some of the cake layers on here so I can get a really good feel for how I want the layout to be and the spacing that I need to leave. I don't want any of the cakes to overlap in this case, so that's why you'll see me kind of popping some of the cakes on and making sure that they fit. I wasn't sure, as I said, which way I wanted the colours to go around, but I did want there to be as many kind of cakes in here as possible. And for this one, I decided to keep the layers of the cake colours the same. So I didn't want to mix and match, but that's definitely something you could do as well. Now I'm going to pop up this main cake here. I decided not to separate that one, so both layers of this one are fully popped up on little foam dots, whereas the other ones I am going to do the bottom layer of the cake, and I'm going to put that completely flat. So here I'm going to use some liquid glue. This is the Ranger Multi-Medium in the matte finish, and I pop it into these little glue bottles myself. There is a video on my channel that shows you how to do that. Just search on YouTube how to fill a glue bottle and mine will pop up for you. So then once I have got the bottom layer nice and flat with liquid glue, I am popping the top layer up on top of the cake with some foam squares. Now you could use some foam tape, some foam squares, dots. You could even just layer up pieces of scrap pieces of cardstock that you had lying around, just whatever works. Now I'm actually going to make a bit of a mistake in this card, and I'm going to leave it in here. I think it's really important to leave things in to explain to you guys and to kind of show you that I make so many mistakes, and I have the beauty of being able to edit them out, mainly to keep my videos nice and short. I really like to keep my videos nice and short and pretty concise and pretty to the point. I don't like too much waffling, so I have chosen to keep a couple of little bits in here, even though I do usually have the luxury of being able to edit them out. Now here I am just going to kind of add all the cakes that are coming off the edges. I want this to be one big continuous picture. So I have, again, even for the outside cakes, I'm following that same little thing of gluing down the bottom layer straight onto the cardstock and then popping up the top layer. So here is my card base, and for now I thought that I wanted to keep all of the cakes hanging off the edge right to the end of the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card. Now there's kind of two ways you can do this. You can do it that way so that everything hangs right off to the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, even though our card front is cut smaller than that. So the pieces on your card front will overhang a little bit, but just to the edges of the main card. Or you can cut everything nice and flush with your card front, and that will leave a really nice clean border around the outside to your card base, if you know what I mean. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but here I decided I wanted to make it all nice and even with my card base. So I was going with the first option that I've just talked about. So once it is all adhered down to my card with some liquid glue on the back of the foam, I looked at this here and thought, yeah, I made the wrong decision. I didn't like how this looked at all. It looks messy. It kind of looks confusing to me. You can't really see that there is the original card front is cut smaller. So I'm going to tell you that this part here is even sped up. Very carefully and very slowly, I removed the card front, and you can see that I have ripped both of the the actual card base itself, and then the foam tape was a little bit worse for wear. But I'm turning this over and cutting off everything overhanging from my 4 by 5 1/4 inch card front. Then I'm adding a little bit more glue, and I'm able to reuse the same card base, so nothing was lost, thankfully. I was able to rescue this card, and to me that looks a lot cleaner, and I really like this a lot more. Now there is just a little bit more that I want to do to this card, and that is adding some glossy accents onto this gorgeous cake icing, and this will make all the difference. Glossy accents is just a kind of dimensional, completely transparent. It does go on a little bit cloudy, but then when it dries completely clear, and it adds a beautiful little dimensional glaze to the top of wherever you put it. So I thought that there was no way that I wasn't going to add it to all that drippy, gorgeous icing. And then on the main cakes and things, I added it, and it stays really nicely there on the inked lines, and I just added it on everything that was able to be seen. And in a second, I will give you a close-up here. You can see it's nice and cloudy, but it does look gorgeous and shiny. And then in a minute I will show you what it looks like when it has dried, and that was about an hour later. I think I took some of this footage that I could add it to the end of this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you have a look through your stencil stash and see what you can kind of create and cut up to make it a little bit more dimensional. This is a very fun, cool card. You can see that gorgeous clear dimension there, which makes all the difference. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!